It's important for us to learn how to control ourselves, if not it would lead us into trouble. This has been the true life story of Pastor Ansah, but if you like true life stories, do subscribe, and press the notification button to be notified whenever we post a new video. This is how the pastor narrated his story. My name is Pastor Ansah. Some time ago, I was following a pastor, a great man of God. Through his training and prayers, I received a special gift from God. Due to that, I decided to start my own church. So, I started, and at the beginning, everything went well. It was a fellowship, and when we pray, members got results. Therefore, at a point, I decided to expand the fellowship and make it a church instead. When I started the church, there was progress. God was moving among us and members were getting healed and delivered from various problems. The church was doing well. People were testifying and new members were coming to the church. 3 years into the ministry, a senior pastor with much experience than I, came to me requesting for assistance since his church had collapsed. He wanted to work under me as an associate pastor. I committed the request to prayer, and I felt it was safe to work with him. So, I put him in charge of the church's finances. Anything concerning money about the church was in his hands, though he sometimes preached and conducted church services as well. Since he came, he worked well and did everything as expected of him, and I gave him the respect he deserved. We planned that the church must have its own land for a permanent place of worship, so we organized a fundraising ceremony to raise funds for that purpose. By God's grace, the fundraising was very successful. Members gave money cheerfully for the purchase of the land. I then asked the senior pastor I had put in charge of the finances to make the necessary accounts and send the money to the bank. This he did as arranged. One morning, I received a call from this man, the senior pastor, telling me that he wanted to bring me the pay and receipt of the money to the bank to prove that indeed the money had been deposited. But some few minutes later, he called back to say that he would send his daughter of about 19 years old to bring the receipt instead of him coming, so I agreed, and not too long afterwards, about 1.5 hours later, his daughter came with the pay and receipt as promised. But after the girl gave the receipt to me, she then requested to use my washroom, and so, I allowed her to. This girl came out of the washroom and started behaving funny, as if she wanted to remove her dress. In fact, I could not control myself seeing her doing that, and so I had sex with her. I didn't really force her, she allowed me to. However, just as we were done, her father, my senior associate pastor, came to my house, and the moment the girl noticed that her father was around, she started screaming and shouting that I had raped her. The father then rushed into my room, and before he could ask me a question, he gave me 2 dirty slaps. He then called his wife and his other children to come, and when they came, in fact they really beat me and later decided to take me to the police station. It was a big disgrace for me, a pastor been held to the police station for raping a girl. I really couldn't tell whether it was planned because of the way the incident happened. On the way to the police, we met this elderly man, who wanted to know what was going on, and this associate pastor narrated the incident that I had raped his daughter when he sent her to me. I was finally taken to the police station, and over there I wrote my statement concerning what happened between the girl and I. My financial head also wrote his statement and then added that for him to drop the case then I had to pay an amount of money he would demand. I agreed since I don't have any option and I wanted the case to be dropped. My financial head, the associate pastor, then demanded for all the money that was raised during the fundraising, an amount of over 10,000 Ghanasadis, and stated that he would drop the case if I gave him that money. Well, I wanted the case dropped, and so I handed over all the money raised to him, and the case died. Many months after the incident, I continued with the church. As for my financial head and the family, they all stopped coming to the church. I never gave up but pressed on with the church. Few months later, a young lady joined the church as a visitor. This lady showed commitment in the church. She attended all the church's programs and gave good offerings as well. After observing all these about the lady, I proposed marriage to her, and she agreed. I was in a relationship with her for a while, and at a point I wanted to meet her, that is to say, I wanted to sleep with her. She was so beautiful that I started lusting after her. For this reason, I invited her to come over to my place, but she said that she wasn't comfortable to come to my house, rather, she preferred a hotel or a guest house. So, one fateful day, we met at a hotel. In fact, I don't know what was wrong with me or going on in my life. When we met at the hotel, I slept with this lady. When everything was over and she was putting herself together, I offered her some money for transport, but she refused and said that those who sent her had already paid her for the work. I got shocked and frightened to hear that from her. She then brought out her phone and started looking at something on it. I managed to collect the phone from her, and when I looked, it was our sex video. Which meant that the room had been wired and our sexual act had been recorded. When I took the phone from her, she told me that she had already published the video on social media. In fact, I nearly beat her up, and she told me that one of those who sent her was standing outside. I opened the window to look, and I saw a well-built man on a motorbike waiting for the lady. This lady then stepped out of the room, sat on the motor, and off they went. A week after, I decided to go and have a church service as usual, but I started receiving a lot of messages warning me not to dare enter the church for any service. If I did, my naked video and pictures would be shown publicly. Though I tried, the messages were so much that I finally complied. Suddenly, everything changed, life became very difficult, and I felt lost in the presence of God. I believe some of the church members saw my naked video, and so they also stopped coming to me or the church. The land on which we operate the church was also taken away from me because I was not able to pay for it as scheduled. Help was not coming from anywhere, therefore, I started selling the properties of the church, such as the instruments and other items. All hope was lost, and I felt it was better I died. Any time I thought of my naked video. I was there when a pastor friend came to me one day because he had heard my story on social media. He then told me that there is a way out and that I shouldn't worry. I felt relieved when he told me that there is a way out. He promised to help me get back to my former days and that he would take me to see a native doctor for that purpose. This friend of mine took me to a native doctor in a village very far away from town. We had to walk for several kilometers to reach the place. When we arrived, this native doctor asked for the reason I was there, and I told him everything that had happened to me. Then he said that was no problem for him. In fact, I was so happy to hear that and was ready to know what he would have me do. Then he said that for him to help me, I must sacrifice my wife. I then told him that I wasn't married, so I don't have a wife. Then he added that I could sacrifice a loved one, my mother, father, or any relative I love dearly. I then told this native doctor that I couldn't meet the demand he was making. Then suddenly, my friend who brought me there got annoyed with me for not trying to comply with the demands. I told him that I was already in a serious trouble, and if I followed this plan, things would get worse, and I don't want that. I left him there and walked back home alone. Life became so unbearable that I resort to drinking alcohol. When I got drunk, I would temporarily forget my challenges, but the moment I was sober, I would start thinking again. I really need help. If you have any advice, please don't withhold it from me. I need help. This is the true life story of Pastor Ansah. Stay tuned for more true life stories, and don't forget to subscribe, share and comment. See you in the next video.